James Stowe was a YouTuber known for his unique videos of himself hopping on freight trains, traveling across the country on the back of cars. His fans loved his piano skills, his sense of humor, and his funny comments about what he saw. Hopping on moving trains is an extremely dangerous activity, with the risk of falling or getting stuck between moving carriages, but that hasn't stopped people from doing it since the Great Depression, and it certainly hasn't stopped James, or Stob the Tramp as he called himself on his YouTube channel, which boasted nearly 60,000 subscribers and just over 60 videos. In the comments of his videos, you can often find people claiming to have met Stob in bars, initially skeptical of his tales of train hopping. But each time, he surprised them with spectacular footage of his adventures, such as trips from Palm Beach to Jacksonville. Stob loved sharing his raw life on the tracks with his followers, who supported him in his constant search for pizza and cold beer. Sadly, on November 8, 2017, his adventure tragically ended with a fatal train accident in Baltimore, which took his life. Due to limited media coverage, it is unclear what exactly happened, but the most reliable sources say that James fell from an overpass or that his backpack got caught in an Amtrak train while he was on a bridge. His death left many questions, and fans have asked the Baltimore Police Department for more details, but they were asked to respect the family's privacy. In 2024, many of his fans still aren't sure what happened, but one thing is for sure: Stob the Wanderer died doing what he loved, and his legacy will live on forever. On February 17, 2021, 12-year-old Felicia Kononckuk posted a video to TikTok that would forever change the way people remembered her. Her content was typically lighthearted and fun, meant to entertain her peers and her small group of followers. But that day, the tone was completely different, angsty and serious.
Жесть история. У нас там сосед, он пьяный. Он, стучится на дверь, все ломает нафиг. Он уже несколько минут здесь стоит, стучится, орёт, матерится. Я просто вне страха.
That morning, Felicia's father had left the house to run some errands, leaving her and her younger brother alone. Shortly after he left, a neighbor began banging on her door. The knocks were getting louder and more frantic, and Felicia, already anxious, decided to do the only thing she could think of: record a video on TikTok to seek help. She hoped that someone would notice her situation and intervene if necessary. The knocking on the door continued for over an hour. Strangely, at that time, some workers were in the house for renovation work, but none of them bothered to answer the knock, perhaps thinking that it was not their job. It is unclear why Felicia did not seek help from them, but soon the silence fell and the girl felt relieved. Shortly after, a friend of hers sent her a message, inviting her to go for a walk in the park. Felicia, still scared but happy at the idea of going out and feeling safe, immediately accepted. While she waited, her father finally came home. But just at that moment, there was a knock at the door. This time, Felicia, thinking it was a misunderstanding, went over to open it. In front of her was her neighbor, a 33-year-old man named Vasil Dinet. Without warning, the man drawn up a gun and opened fire. Felicia was hit repeatedly, and her body collapsed to the ground. Her father, hearing the gunshots, immediately ran to her, screaming for the workers to call for help. As he held his daughter in his arms, he listened to her last heartbreaking words. Vasil Dinet, the man who was once a friendly neighbor, had recently been involved in arguments with Felicia's father over trivial noise issues. That day, however, something inside him finally broke, and he chose to take out his anger on the Kononckuk family. Just 15 minutes before the attack, Felicia had posted her last video on TikTok, unaware that it would be her last message to the world. Guyver Beach, a hidden gem of white sand just north of Sennen Cove in West Cornwall, England, is often overlooked by passing motorists, unaware of its beauty due to the winding roads through the sand dunes. But for Jacob Cockle, a YouTuber, it was home. In 2011, Jacob launched a channel called Whirlpoolhitman, where he shared thrilling footage of his extreme adventures, from whirlpool swimming to cliff diving, extreme surfing, and cave exploring. To date, his channel has gained nearly 50,000 subscribers. Jacob lived a life of adrenaline, constantly pushing himself to the limits. His stunts earned him articles in major surf magazines and accolades from prestigious publications such as the Sunday Times and National Geographic. In many of his whirlpool videos, Jacob would throw objects, filming them as they were engulfed by the powerful currents. But more often, he would dive into these dangerous whirlpools himself, risking being dragged under by the swirling waters. On May 28, 2013, the infamous whirlpool in the Haley estuary reappeared, as it did a couple of times a year. Jacob, determined to get some spectacular footage, set out to swim in it again. He rushed to his friend, artist David Rain, and asked him to film the adventure. David, who had worked with him before, saw his excitement and agreed. As with many of his videos, Jacob brought a quirky accessory to add a touch of style, this time a horse mask. For several minutes, Jacob swam along the edge of the vortex, drifting with the current but managing to stay afloat.
I reckon you got enough there.
Riding the current of it with your body.
Are you?
Yeah, it's really similar to surfing. Just flowing with it. That's pretty scary.
You got enough?
I should really make the most of it. I don't know what else to do.
At one point, he told David that vortex surfing was a lot like surfing, all about going with the flow. After about 25 minutes of filming, David suggested that they had enough footage and asked Jacob to get out of the water, but Jacob told him he wanted one last shot. He asked for his GoPro and put it on a stick, determined to capture more underwater footage. But moments after he went under, Jacob never surfaced. Panic gripped David, who ran to the other end of the dock, where the water had pooled. That's when he saw Jacob face down in the water. His friend was gone. In March of 2014, Jacob's last video was uploaded to YouTube. The haunting caption at the end read, "Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever." At 28, Jacob had lost his life doing what he loved most. His funeral was filled with more people than the church could hold, all gathered to celebrate the life of a fearless adventurer. A year after his death, the harbor was renovated, and the vortex that had hypnotized Jacob and ultimately taken his life was gone forever. Albert Dyrlund was a Danish content creator and actor, renowned for his hilarious comedy sketches and catchy music videos. Since 2016, he has uploaded over 220 videos to YouTube, amassing a dedicated fan base of over 170,000 subscribers. In 2018, Albert starred in the comedy film Team Albert. On July 28, 2021, Albert was climbing Mount Saseta in the Val Gardena region of the Italian Alps with friends, filming content for his YouTube channel. During the hike, he shared his scenic views with followers via an Instagram story. Tragically, that same day, while recording video on his phone, Albert slipped and fell over 600 feet off the mountain, losing his life instantly. Emergency services, including a rescue helicopter, were dispatched, but Albert was pronounced dead at the scene. Mount Saseta, part of the Dolomites, is known for its dangerous limestone cliffs, sharp edges, and sudden drops, all of which contributed to the fatal accident. Authorities later revealed that Albert and his friends were on a trail connecting two mountain peaks, but details of what led to his fall remain unclear. Following his passing, thousands of fans flooded social media with heartfelt tributes, calling Albert a Danish YouTube legend and one of Denmark's best content creators. With over 90 million views on his channel, his work has touched both Danish and international audiences. Albert's untimely passing has rocked the YouTube world, serving as a sobering reminder of the risks that come with filming in dangerous environments. To this day, he is fondly remembered for his talent, humor, and happiness. Harrisongilks, a 16-year-old Canadian, received a devastating diagnosis, a rare type of cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. 2 years later, at the age of 18, he was told that his disease was terminal. Faced with this terrible reality, instead of giving in to despair, Harrison made an extraordinary decision. He would make his last years memorable, inspiring everyone who followed him.
I'd like to make a little series called maybe like bucket list series. I'm gonna go out and do a bunch of stuff that I've always wanted to do. You know, I'm not sure what yet. You know, maybe skydiving or, you know, just stuff along those lines.
Thus was born the Bucket List series, a project through which he would realize all the dreams he had always harbored, like skydiving and experiencing breathtaking experiences. Harrison shared his story on TikTok, talking about his cancer and his desire to complete as many of his to-do lists as possible in the time he had left. The video quickly went viral, garnering an outpouring of support from around the world. Thanks to generous donations, the young man soon began to have incredible adventures, both on land and in the air, as his audience followed him every step of the way. During that time, Harrison was constantly updating his followers, both on his health and his achievements. At one point, with great joy, he even shared positive news. The tumors in his lungs and prostate seemed to have stabilized, a small sign of hope. He even managed to celebrate his 18th birthday, a milestone that seemed almost impossible. However, on October 21st, his birthday, nothing appeared on social media. The silence that followed made fans think that Harrison was experiencing an intimate and special moment with his loved ones. But as weeks passed without an update, concern began to creep in. Harrison disappeared from social media for a month, until he returned on November 17th with a dramatic announcement. The chemotherapy he had undergone over the summer had caused severe damage to his nerves and muscles, so much so that he had lost the use of his arms. His condition had deteriorated so rapidly that he could no longer continue checking off items from his bucket list. The news devastated his fans, who had followed him with hope for nearly 3 years, convinced that he would accomplish so much more. In his final video, Harrison expressed his deep gratitude to all those who supported him, saying that he was grateful for every moment he had lived. He concluded his message by saying that he hoped he had inspired others, shared some happiness, and a positive message. Harrison passed away a few days later, but his legacy of courage and hope lives on in the hearts of those who followed him.